Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to some of y'all and peace out to the rest of you. Hit the share button because the message is more important than the messenger. This one is sponsored by Jay Johnson. You know who you are. Thank you from the bottom of my black heart and from the depths of my black mind for sponsoring this one and for coming through on the Cash App to do it. I normally will put something like this only on Buy Me a Coffee. I'll go ahead and put this one on YouTube this time, though, because you sponsored that, Mr. Johnson. So everybody owes Mr. Johnson some thanks because this is something I would normally not upload for free for you, but he paid. I'm going to give some tips, not all of them, but I'm going to give some tips on learning a new language. And I'm going to tell you some of the hardest things and some of the first things that you will come across, a little bit of the hardest things and a little bit of the first things you will come across when learning a new language. The first thing that you have to come to realize is that the grammar, the arrangement of the parts of speech are not going to be the exact same in most other languages. You're going to have to, in order to properly learn a language and speak it like an adult with some sense, you're going to have to learn the names and the terminology of different elements of language in your own language. I mean, you're going to have to learn things beyond just noun, verb, and adjective. You're going to have to learn the meaning of the word conjunction. Linking words is oftentimes referred to as conjunction. You will have to learn the meaning of you have to learn the meaning of the word preposition if you've forgotten. Those are just words that give location: in, on, at. You're going to have to learn the meanings of these words. And in your first language, let's say in English, since you're an English speaker listening to me, you'll have to learn the meanings of these words, not just noun, verb, and adjective, but the other parts of speech and the other elements of language. You must learn to properly punctuate and to spell in your first language before you start on another. If you are misspelling key words in your own language, don't get ready to start trying to write in another language. You are nigliterate in yours. You have to fix that first. This is another reason that I have always advocated for the Malcolm X standard of reform. If you were not just a criminal, but if you were just a stereotypical N-word in high school, in middle school, then you probably didn't go to college. You should not have. And it's going to reflect in your writing and nobody can take you seriously. If you are nigliterate in English, drop other languages, at least in terms of writing them. Give it up. And you're going to have to write in other languages because you're going to have to write things to remember them and save them. That's the first thing. When you learn something new in another language, write it. Stop just asking people 2 and 3 times how to say the same thing. They're going to say, I taught you that. They're going to get tired of it. No, you write it. And you write about 2 examples per each type of sentence when you start to learn them. So as an example, if you want to say in the Amharic language, Gerald is crazy, then write that down, Gerald Eptino. That's how you would say Gerald is crazy in Amharic. Now, let's say that but then additionally, ask someone how to say Geraldine is crazy. And then you would say Geraldine Ebdenich. And you would tell them, you would ask them which word is separate. Is Ebdenich one word or is it 2 words? Ask questions like this as you're writing. This will help you. Then you will be able to form sentences later on correctly. You will know that when you talk about a guy, you're going to put his name, the adjective, and then the verb be conjugated for he is. So you're going to say Gerald crazy is, as an example. That's how it would come out in Amharic. Write it. Geraldine crazy is, but is for a male and is for a female are different in Amharic. But you'll write this down on some paper or notebook, and you'll carry it with you, so you write down more stuff. And that way, when you're practicing the conversations in other languages, you'll come to a word. You'll say, "I used to know it in this language. Hold on, I wrote it down." You pull it out. You finish the sentence with the word you knew. If you were taking classes to formally learn another language, then when you get to the intermediate level, try to drop forming complete sentences in English before you are instructed to do so. Practice it with instructors before you're instructed to do it, because when you get to an advanced class of another language, you should cease forming full sentences in your first language. And that way, when you come to something you don't know how to say in the new language, you would form the question in the new language, and you would only use the word from your first language for which you are asking a translation. So it will be okay if you are, let's say, if you're in an advanced Arabic class, you stop saying, "How do I say TV in Arabic?" Okay, dumbass, you're in advanced Arabic and you're still doing that. You don't deserve to be in advanced if that's the case. When you're in intermediate, start practicing forming sentences in Arabic with a few words for which you're asking a translation only being spoken in English. So you might say, instead of saying "what's television" in Arabic, you would say, "كيف نقول television في عربية." Practice that before you are instructed to do it, and then this way you will be ready. When the instructor says to the class, you get to a level where the instructor says, "If you form a complete sentence in English in this class, I'm putting you out. We're going to use the target language to learn the rest of the target language." Now, a lot of native English speakers, especially Americans, always fail when it comes to that. A lot of Gulf Arabs fail too when it comes to that. Not all of them do, but many of them do fail when it comes to that because they're not ready. Another thing too is that do not try to start learning a language from someone that does not speak both languages, the one you want to learn and the one you already know. Don't start with them. They can't help you. They cannot help you build a proper foundation. They cannot explain the intricacies that'll get you off to a good start. They can't do it. They cannot. It's just like you starting off with a student that doesn't speak a lick of English and you trying to teach them English, but you don't speak their language. You're not going to communicate. You can't explain it correctly. They're going to start speaking Niglish and you can't help them correct it. You just can't. So don't make that mistake of thinking that you're going to accelerate your learning by dealing with someone who can't speak your language. You're not going to trade languages. It's not because your brain is not a computer. You don't just stick a thumb drive in your ear and download the language from your brain to the thumb drive and give it to them and tell them to stick it in their ear and then they upload. It's not like that. It's not the way that works. So I don't want you all to make that mistake. And this is something that a lot of Arabs have made with me. In these small villages and towns where there's nobody that speaks English but me, or it was like that. When that happened, oh my God, you should have seen it. You should have seen it. Latching on to me, trying to fight over time with me. And I'm like, you niggas ain't offering to pay me nothing anyway. And you don't speak a lick of English. I can't help you. Your friend is an engineer. He's bilingual. Why can't I help him help you? Why not? So you got to be serious about it. That goes without saying. But you have to be serious enough to write down things that you learn, write down a similar sentence with a minor change so that you get some idea of the grammar. And when you start getting into intermediate levels, you stop asking in English how you say something like this in the other language. You don't do that. When you get to the intermediate levels, I mean. When you don't know something, you say it. And don't beat yourself up for not knowing something the first time you hear it. It's not your fault. A thing to avoid when trying to learn another language is give yourself a lot of time. First, find out how different that language is from your language. And then when you do find out, the more different it is from your first language, the more time you need to give yourself to learn it. Don't try to rush. You can't. Um, I could say start with Spanish because Spanish is relatively easy. I consider French to be damn near impossible. And I consider Arabic to be impossible, not because it's not organized, but I consider Arabic to damn near be impossible for a different reason. Arabs don't explain Arabic very well unless they're professional teachers. If they're not professional teachers and bilingual in Arabic and your language, they can't help you. So there is that. Also, another thing about language is when you're learning a new one, don't rush actually to try to learn to read and write the language before you speak it. Another thing too is if somebody insists on teaching you things that you know you'll never use, and after you've explained that you probably won't use that, go ahead and look for someone else that's also going to explain it to you. How to you start with things you know you will use and you will use them frequently. You don't let someone come along and tell you what you know you would not use. Of course, there are the basics. Hello, are you doing okay? What is your name? My name is. Things like that. But things you know you're not going to use, don't let people trip you up with that. And the other thing too is ask people the polite way to say something. Be sure to ask them that. They may say, well, we don't, and people that speak my language don't really use that. Okay, fine. They may not, but still ask just in case. You see, if I check in at a hotel here in Saudi and the person behind the desk does not speak Arabic and their English is really a second or third language, and they say, give me your passport. He's giving me a command and I don't know this nigga. So I'll look at him and say, is that an order? That's my personality. I now know from being a language teacher for years that he may not know how to say, may I have your passport? Passport, please, things like that. He may not have learned to say it the diplomatic way. But when I first got here, I thought people from India were just rude all the time. I dealt with some that were like that in the US. I thought, okay, so that's how they are here. Another thing, don't talk with your hands any more in the target language than you would in your first language. And if you have to point to something because you don't know its name, you can ask someone as you point, what is the name of that in your language? And if they tell you, then be sure, for practice, be sure to finish the sentence by saying, thank you. Can you please hand me that? And then use the name of whatever it is. Because you seize the opportunity to repeat that. When you learn something new anyway, and you write it, make sure you repeat it. The one thing you're going to have to do is when you are at home, you're going to have to talk to yourself to practice the things that you've already learned, to get them into your memory. Your long-term memory. You have to. If someone at the house living with you thinks you're crazy and talking to yourself, you just show them the language you wrote down and you get them to understand you're just drilling in that language. And tell them to fuck the shuck up and fit the guck out your face with that sure bit. You ain't crazy. You're just learning another language. And if they can your cass. Point left and tell them that's where you go with that sure bit. It's important that we black men start to do this at an accelerated pace because when it comes to learning language, women do tend to surpass men in terms of speed. It's better that we take that up seriously because understand a lot of these ladies are going to be willing to learn these languages, but only to weaponize them against us. Whereas we're not trying to learn it to weaponize it against them. So learn both compliments and insults in the target language. It's a good thing, actually, to hear the insults, but don't say them first. Don't learn how to say them. Just learn how to recognize them when you hear them. Start with compliments. I'm not going to lie. When you move into a new place, basic compliments go a long way. They open a lot of things up for you, and it makes it easier for you to learn the language. Not only that, but you will find that as you build your circle of friends, maybe you become a part of somebody else's circle of friends, but you're giving compliments in their native language. They're going to start doing this to each other more. Now, we like to roast. I know that, and that's fun too. But to start with compliments, what that does is that makes people realize, you know what, there are cultures where people can say nice things about each other. There is such a culture like that somewhere on the planet, and they'll start to take that because now they believe it's real. Imagine if several of us were in Sierra Leone or Liberia, where they have their own dialects of English. Now, they speak English, but they've got their own dialects as well as the formal English that you and I have learned in school. But imagine you start learning Liberian English as another dialect. It's still a learning experience. And you find ways to compliment someone. And you start to, with your new circle of friends there, you start to give compliments. Well, you know, black folk in general have cultures in which we roast each other. And it's roasting, it's jokes, it's fine. But what's wrong with compliments? You know what's going to happen? They're going to say, you know what, man, one, that's going to represent your people very well. And even though Saudi Arabia is a fairly large country, it is the biggest in the peninsula and in the Gulf. Even though that is the case, I can tell you straight up that a few of us can have, spending time with them, a few of us can really have positive effects on the culture. I've seen it happen. I've actually been a part of that. Now, I've had students that have taken Jamaican profanity and they've spread that. There's actually a video of a man cussing an old uncle somewhere down a yard, and he's cussing up a storm in patois. He's cussing up all kind of bumba clots and Raz clots. And every time he says one of these things, the editor of the video threw in some lightning and some thunder sound effects every time. And now you've got Saudis walking around, and when they get amazed or shocked at something, they say, Bumba clat. And I'm like, oh my God, the hell did I start? Now, I'm just going to be honest. I don't know how the hell it spread from me to people that I don't even know. But it did. Yeah, that was me. I didn't mean for it to. I didn't think it would. I'm not even Jamaican. Like I said, I'm 200% Jafaican. But that is one of the things, one of the most treasured things you're going to find as you begin to spread compliments. And I don't mean butt kissing. Things that you can actually believe when you say it about someone, but in creative ways. So learning how to say things like in the South of the U.S., we say you are a sight for sore eyes. That means that it's good to see you again after a while. And then learning how to say something similar in other languages. It may not be you're a sight for sore eyes, because if you translate that literally, that can mean you're a sight that I can look at if I want to hurt my eyes. And they would say, why would you insult me? Like, mother, okay, so we roasting each other? And then start talking about your ears and your head. No, but you could say something like, the sight of you is a medicine for sore eyes, or treatment for sore eyes. Now, let's say you say something like that. See how different that is? Get it? Let's say you translate things like, you learn to say things like this, or you learn to say things like, his mind is a steel trap. Once he learns it, he has it forever. You say things like this, especially when you learn to compliment someone that's not there, then what that does is it causes people to seek out your company, and it gives you more opportunities to practice the language organically. I hope that this helps. If you want to hear more like this later on, y'all need to join Buy Me a Coffee, and you need to subscribe. Not just donate, but subscribe. And I say that for a good reason. Because if you donate, as I upload things to Buy Me a Coffee, they're there anywhere 24 to 48 hours, usually about 36 hours, a day and a half. And then it becomes available only to the subscribers. But if you subscribe, once it's up there, you always have access to it. Y'all need to check out the Buy Me a Coffee, though. On the real, y'all should check it out. I hope that what I've said has been a benefit. And I hope that you all show Jay Johnson some love and some thanks and appreciation and gratitude. Thanks for listening. And as always, Black Heart, Black Mind, Blackout, Assalamu Alaikum, Black Heterosexual, Non-Select Male Power because they don't like it, Black Patriarch until extinction of Judgment Day. And thank you for flying with us again here on Jet Black Airways, where the phrase jet black is also a verb. Keep jetting black with us until the wings and the wheels fall off. Gender justice forever.